Hello everyone and welcome to this lecture. My name is Larik and by the end of this lecture you'll have written your very first Python program, downloaded Python, and you'll understand the basics of how Python works. Let's dive in. So, you are obviously wondering, what is Python? What are we going to use it for? What's it even useful for? Why does it exist? Now, Python is just a programming language that's super beginner friendly, but also insanely powerful. You can use it for everything, for from automating tasks to building games and even data analysis. How cool is that? Today we'll focus on the absolute basics and so you can get started coding right away. So to download Python, you just have to go over to downloads, hover over it in python.org. Down Hover over downloads, then select whatever operating system you have here. Mine is Windows and I already had Python downloaded. And there's also other platforms like AIX, HPUX, IBM, iOS and iPadOS, Linux, etc. You get the points. And especially I like this one. There's an Android release, so you can just program on the go. And if you want to download this, and if you want to download any of these lectures, you can be able to learn from anywhere. Now, without further ado, once you have downloaded it, and by the way, if you ever think of playing with the custom settings, please don't, because it might mess up some of the early, like, later things we're gonna do. Now, once you've downloaded everything, you have two steps from here. Either you go over here and just search for IDLE. You have the shell here, and you can program here, or you can just press Control N, and you can just program over here. And the second step here is, or the second option, is to get just custom, a custom IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment, just like IDLE, but I mean it's got the cool stuff like AI, IntelliSense, which is basically autocomplete in a fancy term. And my point is that you can use whatever you want, but for now I'm gonna use PyCharm. Shout out to PyCharm, I really like it. And now, without further ado, let us write our first lines of code. So, there are two things we have to discuss at the beginning, which are variables and data types. Variables are basically like boxes or storage rooms that you can store stuff within it. Like for example, I'm gonna enter over here name, oops, equals, and notice I entered double quotes here because that's what a string is, and that's a data type. A string is just a fancy term for text that's in between double quotes or single quotes. You can also use single quotes, but for me, I use double quotes because they're safer. And now I'm gonna write Larik. That's my name. And why did it give me an error? Oh, I've got a plus here. Yeah, sorry about that. So, and the second data type we're going to be talking about is 18. What is 18? 18 is an integer. An integer is basically a fancy, mathematical term for number. It's a number. It can be 1, 10, 500, but not 0 0.5 or any decimal, which is basically the next data type we're discussing. Net worth 0 0.5. That's my net worth. Sorry. So net worth data type is it's a floating point integer number, which is just it's just a decimal. It's a decimal number. We use float for short in Python. As you can see, it's float. It's a float. Wait, what did I? So now that we have our first three lines of code, you can now just do whatever you want. For example, we can just get this back. Or now the first function, which is like doable stuff is the print function, which just gives stuff into the console. For example, we can print hello world. Hello world. There we go. And we can also print variables we can also print variables like name. I can just use Shift F10, Shift F10. There we go. It prints in name because name was basically just a variable for Larik. Sorry. We can also print age. And you can also add it to net worth. Thank you, AI. So these values just become they just become one whole value, not like 18.0.5. That is called concatenation, and it would have happened if these two were strings, just like this. So if we were to run this 18.5, it just added the two. Now if we were to convert these two strings, yeah, 0.5, convert it to a string. And these two wouldn't just add up, right? Yeah, told you, 18.0.5. But now let's just get these stuff back to where they were. And still get 18.5. Nice. So, this was a mathematical operation that we just talked about, and it's a pretty useful concept in Python. So, let's combine what we've learned. But before that, I have forgot to explain another very useful piece of information, which is another function called input. Input is pretty self-explanatory. It just takes user input and just takes it. So for example, if we were to say, what is your name? Thank you, AI. Run. As you can see, it hasn't shown the exit code yet, so we can just go ahead and write anything, like Larik. And there we go, we have the exit code now. And now you're wondering where this Larik went. It's true, it's our name variable, but in this case, we're just gonna ignore the name. See? Oh, sorry. We're gonna delete name. And yeah. Now, we can input whatever we want here. If we run it again, and there we go. It should. Or you know, I'm just gonna do this. Python just doesn't know what to do with this. It's like, okay, you've given me some user input. What should I do with that? And we're gonna tell it exactly what to do with that. And that's why I deleted name, because we're gonna set it to input. Now, an input's default data type is a string, so it's just the same as inputting whatever you want. Like, it's just the same as like the previous name if we entered name here, but this would also be as a string. Like if we control C this. Now when we have ran this, oh, sorry, I'm just, see, it's as if we entered this, name would be replaced from input to whatever this is. And so this is the input function. Now I have a mini project or wrapping up project for you. I want you to create something totally new that takes user inputs of the age and of the name, and it prints them out, just as we've learned. By the way, to print a variable out, you just have print and then var name, where variable name is just your variable name. Go pause this video, have a go at the challenge, and I'll be waiting right here. Okay, so we have to first take user input for the name. Input what is your name, and age equals input how old are you or what is your age. All of them matter. All of them are the same. Print name and print age. Now it took user input. What is your name, Larik? How old are you? I am 18. Now prints out Larik and 18. Now Now, if you have done this correctly, congratulations, you have built a tiny interactive program where Python just talks to the user. Congratulations. And by the end of this lecture, you will have written your very first Python script, which is this, and learned the basics of variables, input and output, and simple operations. That is a huge first step, and we're just getting started. And in the next lecture, we'll dive into conditional statements, which is basically like your program deciding what to do. I'll see you there.